Hey guys, my name is William Roberts. I am a graphic designer and 3D artist, better known as Willyumdesigns on Instagram. I'm currently based in Auburn, Alabama, or as the natives like to call it, the Big Apple, the Windy City, some may even say. Currently, I'm in the midst of a challenge, you could say, where I designed 365 posters in 365 days. For those counting, that's a year of my life dedicated to a year of posters. One of the main motivations behind doing this was just to create more. I found myself getting bogged down and complaining that I didn't create enough or design enough. So I decided to design every single day to force myself to do so. And ultimately, it's been incredibly rewarding. I've really seen a lot of growth. I've seen a lot of change in my style, what I like to create, what I like to look for in a design. But for example, let's look at one of my first posters. I guess I was super excited about coffee that day. What can I say? But then let's look at one of my newer posters. Obviously, there's a lot of change here. First of all, the newer posters have a lot more 3D elements. Yeah, since it's a rite of passage for every graphic designer, I downloaded Blender. I know, I'm so quirky, I'm so cool. But I downloaded it about 100 days in or so and decided to start integrating some 3D artwork with my 2D posters as well. It at first, I think worked okay. Some of these first posters definitely weren't anything special. I knew how to make a sphere. I knew how to put a texture on the sphere, but past that, I didn't really know what I was doing. And I say all that to say that I still don't know what I'm doing. So please think of this video more of a poster breakdown process rather than a tutorial of any kind. Before we jump into Blender or Photoshop, I would like to explain a few key inspirations that help shape the way that I make my 3D and 2D artwork. Knights, castles, old video games, and even old magazines. Ultimately, through all of this, I'm looking for tiny little details that I can really steal and incorporate into my own artwork. So this could be in the form of poses, little badges, certain titles, or even the composition layout of some of these posters that I'm finding. So after a bit of scrolling, here are 3 pieces of art that really caught my eye. I can kind of merge these together and really have a great reference to start modeling off of. Psst. Oh hey, it's me, your Blender genie. I couldn't figure out a way to record myself talking while blending, I guess is the way to say it. So here I am. I'm gonna float around and describe what I'm doing to you guys. But before that, again, this isn't a tutorial. But here's my wonderful wife. She can explain and basically break down a few easy steps for you to follow.
Welcome to Blender. This button adds shapes. These are all the shapes you can add. Look at all these shapes, even a monkey shape. Want to make this baby smooth? Right-click and smooth. G moves objects around, or you can click and drag. Say it with me, click and drag. I feel like Dora.
That's the point.
Boots! Dora! G plus X, Y, or Z makes you move on a specific axis. Wow! Scene too dark? Add light. Light makes the scene bright. Look at that light. Modifiers help modify. Boolean cuts holes. Subdivision adds geometry. Sculpt in sculpt mode. Objects in objects mode. Edits in edit mode. Dream guest on my podcast? Probably one of my exes.
With all that being said, the process that you're gonna watch behind me is basically a combination of all of those steps put together. Again, I by no means am using Blender correctly, but I do think it can lead to some pretty cool looking little guys, if I have to say so myself. Since I'm making a knight, I like to start with the helmet here. This gives me a good basis of scale, detail, and overall composition as well. I've also brought in my Frankenstein Pinterest board over here to allow me to have a good framework to work off of what I want this poster to eventually look like. You'll also notice that I work a lot from either the material view or the camera view throughout the process. The camera view basically allows me to work from one perspective, kind of constrains myself to be able to move objects in 3D space while making a 2D image to end with. And then the material view basically allows me to see what the materials look like, how they react with the lights when I move them around, so forth. Next, I'll go ahead and add a material courtesy of Blender Kit. Blender Kit is an incredible tool if you're using Blender. It basically gives you a lot of free assets, free materials, free HDRIs, free just goodies in general that can take your renders to the next level. I love to use this Lego plastic texture that allows my models to almost look like an action figure in a way. I used a Boolean modifier to cut these slits in the knight's helmet, and then I added a new texture in the top of the knight here that gives it a furnace type beat. I'm almost making a furnace knight. I don't know. It looks cool, right? It's got a little glow. Got a little glow to it. From there, instead of jumping right into the body of the knight, I'll go ahead and add the cape, as you can see here. Let me tell you a little secret about that. You can hide a lot with a cape. Basically, as you'll see from the creation of this model, I don't have to make a full torso, I don't have to make legs. I can kind of hide mistakes and cut corners a little bit with a cape. Really little secret tool for you there from the dome of William, you could say. Just for you. Then it's as simple as blocking out the chest plate, the arms, and the hands as well. So really at this point, we have a pretty decent idea of where the render is going. We have some lights in the scenes, we have some different materials across the model here. And honestly, blocking out the bigger pieces of a model ahead of time can greatly speed up the process. Like, obviously the arms and the hands aren't super detailed yet, but we have a general idea of where it's gonna go. Also, to add some wear and tear to the model, I'll add a few subdivision modifiers to the bigger pieces, so like the helmet here, to basically add scratches and chips and different little things that tell more of a story with the end result. Since we are making a furnace knight, I'll add some little cloud textures, a couple little dollops of clouds here to give the furnace knight some smoke. I don't know, it looks cool. Now it's time to tackle my least favorite part, the hands and arms. I suck at hands, but we're just gonna add a few finger type spheres that basically look like the Pinterest composition that we have over here. Again, a lot of the times you can hide this with a darker texture, which is exactly what I'm doing here. Or you can just kind of trick the eye into thinking, oh, those are fingers, when in fact, as you can see, that doesn't look like a hand at all. We're learning, okay? We're learning, we're getting there. Finally, in order to complete the toy-like or action figure-like look that I typically go for, I'll add depth of field to the camera. This is the secret sauce for any kind of render that you want to add realism to, that you want to dirty up the frame with too. As you'll see from around me or behind me, the trees that I'm adding can add a lot of depth to that. You can basically add trees in the foreground, trees in the background that blur as the camera focuses on the main object and really creates this pretty sick looking scene, if I have to say. It's just an easy way to add more to your renders. And here we are, completed render. And honestly, this took me just under an hour to create. Obviously, I've gotten a lot quicker with it because I'm forcing myself to by creating this every single day. But yeah, I think he looks pretty cool. He is literally me when I arrive at the function. This is me at any function I go to. He is literally me at a function. When I'm at a function, this guy is me. He's me at any function. That's me at a function. Now that we have our finished render, it's time to make the poster of a lifetime. Ultimately, a lot of the way that I use Photoshop is trial and error based. I will go in having one idea and then completely change it out of the blue once I see a font that I like, a color that works better, so forth. So really, you're gonna see that I change a lot of this poster throughout the process. Before that, here are some great ways to add texture to the render. I'll start by adding a few minor adjustments with exposure and contrast, and then I'll select the knight, inverse the selection, and basically add a radial blur to the background just to kind of highlight the blur effect that we already got in Blender. Now bear with me, I'll then duplicate the image, give that new image an opacity of about 30% or so, and then slap on a halftone texture. Ultimately, I feel like Blender's renders come out almost way too clean at times, so this adds a lot of grit early on into the process, which we'll kind of improve on as we get closer to the end result. Then, in order to add even more texture and grit, I'll use a color lookup adjustment. Color lookup is a really great tool that basically emulates a bunch of film stocks that Adobe has preset. It can add more texture, add more contrast, add less contrast, make it black and white. Really is just a great tool to kind of mess around with to see, am I getting the colors that I want to get out of this image? Finally, I can merge all of these layers together, throw that baby into a new Photoshop file, and we're off to the races. Then it's just a process of trial and error, changing the font, changing the color of the font, changing the color of the background, adding more grain, blah, 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 until I have something that I'm somewhat happy with. We'll add some stars, rotate that fool, and bam. Ladies and gentlemen, that is a Willyumdesigns poster. He is literally me at the function. That guy is me at the function. If I had one thing to say about this design, it would be that is literally me at a function. That's me at the function, guys. He's me at any function. Thank you for watching this first little YouTube video. It was so much fun to make, and I honestly am so passionate about this stuff that it is exciting for me to be able just to share it with all of you. I hope that it was somewhat coherent, and I hope that it inspires you to download Blender and make some little 3D guys. Until next time.